The Braytech Osprey Adept Rocket Launcher has a secret, and in today's video we're going to break down exactly what that is, and why you should consider farming this weapon this week, what the exact god roll is, and everything else involving this rocket. But first, I need to give you the most important information, which is that Bungie has confirmed in a previous article that they will be doing a buff for the perk Bipod. If you don't know, Bipod is currently a terrible perk in Destiny 2 because it gives you a minus 40% to damage on that rocket, with the upside being an immense amount of reserves. However, current DPS tests indicate that it's not worth the trade-off. But after Bungie goes through with this buff, it very well could be, and if it is, the Braytech Osprey will be one of only 3 rockets that can roll this perk, and the only void option, which is extremely important to mention because every season in Destiny 2 we get different weapon surges, and sometimes it's significantly more advantage to use a void weapon, arc weapon, solar weapon, whatever it may be, to match that surge and get that increase to damage. Before we dive into the god roll of this weapon, let's first talk about the secret that this weapon has, and it's something that's shared with all the other Bipod rockets, but the Braytech Osprey does it better than the rest of them. The perk Bipod increases the amount of rocket launcher reserves that you get, and so when you rally a flag with triple reserves, you can get at maximum 15 rockets, which is an absurd amount of rockets to have. And one thing that makes this extremely advantageous is that when you swap off from a Bipod rocket after rallying the flag, or whenever you have maximum reserves, you lose very minimal ammo. So this makes loadout swaps or weapon swaps extremely efficient, and this is a strategy that's utilized very commonly when trying to solo the Ghosts of the Deep dungeon. You'll initially break the boss's shield by using an Arbalest loadout, and then swap to another loadout where you have Leviathan's Breath on the heavy, and in order to do so without losing almost all of your power ammo, you make sure to have the Arbalest loadout have a Bipod rocket. But the reason why the Braytech Osprey is even better than the other 2 Bipod rockets is because its left perk column has field prep on it, which increases the reserves even more. This gives the Braytech Osprey an even larger amount of reserves than its counterparts, the Apex Predator and the Cold Comfort, making it the best rocket to have as a swap rocket. So after grinding this Grandmaster a ton, I finally got myself a field prep Bipod roll, and I was able to test out how much ammo you lost from it, and the results were very nice when swapping over to something like a grenade launcher, for example. You can see in the gameplay behind me, that's what I'm doing. I was able to maintain significantly more power ammo with this rocket than any other rocket in the game, and while that is nice, that isn't quite enough to make this rocket alone worth the grind, especially because this Grandmaster is kind of tough. But considering it's a void rocket and its counterpart or comparison is going to be rockets that have been nerfed horribly, like the Royal Entry, for example, its archetype of rocket has intrinsic tracking, and so it does significantly less damage because of that. So for that reason alone, the Braytech Osprey outclasses the Royal Entry because it's a high impact frame. Now there are 3 other legendary rockets that are void to compare to the Braytech Osprey. We have Tomorrow's Answer, and its best roll is Lasting Impression and auto loading, and Bad Omens, which has just the absolute worst perk pool of any weapon ever. Please never use this in PvE. And then lastly, we do have the Red Herring, which does have Frenzy and Field Prep, but still an absolutely terrible rocket. So by default, the Braytech Osprey becomes the best void rocket in the game due to its better perk pool selection, Envious Assassin and Frenzy being the current best roll in this season, with a notable mention to auto loading and Frenzy. But more importantly, we don't know what Bungie is going to do to buff Bipod next season, and if it's a substantial buff, then Braytech Osprey could rise up from being just the best void rocket in the game to being the very best rocket in the game, especially because it can roll Envious Assassin and Bipod. Now, it's not the only rocket in the game that can roll this. Cold Comfort can also get Envious Assassin and Bipod, and with its origin trait, it can actually fire 4 consecutive rockets, which does make it a better rocket overall. So if Bipod does get massively buffed, keep that in mind that the Cold Comfort will be the rocket to grind for, and that's the one that you get from the dungeon, Ghosts of the Deep. But again, there will be those circumstances when it will be Void Surge and not Stasis Surge for a given activity like the Grandmasters or whatever it may be. And in those circumstances, you'll definitely want to fall back onto the Braytech Osprey, which is why I think it's definitely worth it to grind for the Adept roll of this with Envious Assassin and Bipod, and prepare for the buff that Bungie is about to give to it. It is a little bit of copium because we don't know what Bungie will do, but I'm optimistic that where it stands currently, with a buff to Bipod, this thing is going to be a formidable weapon in future seasons of Destiny 2. Try to grind out this roll in the Grandmaster this week if you can. It's definitely a tough one. Make sure to watch my guide on it if you haven't seen already. If you snag an Envious Assassin Bipod roll, I am very jealous of you, but do also hang on to any auto-loading Frenzy roll, Envious Assassin Frenzy roll, or even a Cluster Bomb Frenzy roll is not too bad. That is double damage perks, which is something we've never seen on a rocket before. And that's going to be a wrap. Let me know your thoughts about this weapon down in the comments below, and if you want to watch another video from this channel, click on the screen now. Either the video on the left or the video on the right are both excellent options, and I'll see you in those videos. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Later.